Okay, guys, I'm sorry for the loss. Saga is balanced video. Okay, it wasn't meant to be serious. It was supposed to be a joke video. Um, it was basically a joke because earlier today, uh, um, there was new information regarding the new a new update on Korean Law Saga. And the new update basically has promotional costumes for one of the Korean those female Korean groups. There's like so many. It's just like there's like a new one apparently. Well, I don't know if it's new. I think it's called Girlfriend or something like that. And basically with that they got I guess they signed some kind of contract to get some costumes put in game for that. So regarding the video, I got a lot of messages in game regarding the video. I guess a lot of people expected me to make like a legitimate argument regarding Los Sagas Balance because I'm kind of the guy in the community that's like, just stop making excuses and just do it, because excuse me for sniffling a lot. I'm actually sick. I'm basically from the old gen Los Saga. Like I started playing Los Saga November 11, 2009, closed beta. I was a tester, and I've been playing it ever since. So I've been playing it for a very long time. So, coming from that era, and like going into this one, which is kind of completely new, winds of change. There's a lot of new players in the community. It's pretty weird. A lot of old gens quit. Not a lot of people stuck to the game. You still see some familiar faces, but there's not a lot. Um, I just see a lot of complaining. A lot of complaining about a lot of stuff. You know, People complaining about like things like vampire, high damage combos, and things like that. But I just was just, to me, it's like I never complained. There's a lot of old gens that are complaining now, like regarding newer gears and stuff like that, and it's honestly surprising because it's like I, I I personally believe that these old gens are complaining because they're just not as stacked as they used to be, so they're pretty upset. I'm pretty sure if they were as stacked as I am now, they wouldn't be complaining at all. But since they're basically not in my position or some of my guildmates' positions, they're mad, I guess, and they're just like, this is overpowered, this does too much damage, and it's just ridiculous. It's stupid because there was always high damage output combos. There was always things that were just particularly strong. Does no one remember when Hazama used to be so fast that people used to glitch through the ground when they used it? And does no one remember, pre-nerfed, uh, pre-nerfed Fire Mage that used to like do like half, 50% um of your HP? When you used to get hit by a meteor when you were fainted. It's just like I remember 70 strength TH like completely doing like 75% of your health. You know what I mean? Like it just ridiculous. And people used to and those were always high damage combos. It's just like there was always high damage combos. It was just like, you know, I don't know. It's just like I don't know why people are just complaining now. Like it now it's Earth Mage debuffed to whatever. But before it was, Haunt to Iron Knight stab to Fire Mage, you know, or something along those lines, or like Horn to 100 strength Dahlia to TA shot to Fire Mage. Like that destroyed HP. That was like, what I'm saying? That would really just do a lot. And it's like, it's the same thing now. It's just different gears. It's just a little bit more convenient now. So it's like, I don't really understand where all the complaining comes from. But that's the main reason why I made the video. It was just a joke saying, Lost Like is balanced. But like I said, I got a lot of PMs in game. People wanted me to make a legitimate argument, So I guess people want to know my input. So I'll give you my input. If you're, the video I was talking about earlier, this is the video. I'm gonna send the link to this video in the description, but it's some kind of girl, and there's some, but you know, the details of this is basically this, right? These are the details. You have, right. So the rules of the costumes are if you get all six of these costumes, which from my understanding is about $50 to get all six of them, um, you get plus 10 stats to the specific heroes that can use them. So I'm gonna go ahead and rewind this video so you can look at the specific heroes. The specific heroes are Robin, Destroyer, Vampire, Nangan, Lee, and F Saber. So from my understanding, they chose these heroes because apparently, according to like the Law Saga statistics, these are the most purchased heroes on the server. So I guess it's like a company strategy. They're trying to redirect the overpoweredness to from Strider, to like the regular heroes that everyone uses, because these are basically the heroes that everyone runs around with now in KLS. But these are the costumes effects, right? It's pretty crazy. I'm not even gonna lie, but apparently you have to get hit a certain amount of times for these effects to take place, but nonetheless they're effects. A freeze effect on uh, the arrows, and apparently the arrows shoot faster and the aim reticle locks on for Robin Evo. That's ridiculous because I like like this personally to me is it's beyond ridiculous because it's like Robin already takes like absolutely no skill to use, no skill to aim, no nothing. It's like brain dead. It's just like and to add that, it's just like annoying. Destroyer actually takes some skill to use, so they only added a slow to it, so it's like a passive slow, like CM Trinket. Vampire has life steal on all attacks. That's hilarious. I thought that was funny because obvious reasons. Nangan has flame debuff on base 6, and Bruce Lee has it's a defense debuff similar to Earth Mage. F Saber has a passive arcane seal. That's ridiculous. So this is ridiculous. This is basically paying. Now, people see this and they just jump to conclusions like this is crazy, this is overpowered. Well, usually with a lot of updates at KLS, they usually don't let you know like the exact details of what they change. What I mean by that is because these effects are added, that could mean possibly that the characters were nerfed in a way. For example, there's a lot of nerfs that happened to characters when they got buffed. Uh, you know, the fact that Robin now shoots faster probably means that the arrows don't do as much damage, or Destroyer can have a nerf too. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot. So and there's also no guarantee that we're getting this because it seems like I don't know. It just doesn't really seem like something that would fit in North America or any other version. I'm not saying we're not getting it. I'm not sure, but there's no guarantee because this seems like a very Korean specific thing. Bringing it over here, would just be weird. Like, okay, girlfriend, like, I don't think they expect a lot of us to know what this band is or whatever. So there's no 100% guarantee that we're getting this. If we do get, oh my God, I just looked at the dislikes. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. Look at this. It's like half. That's crazy. It looks like a lot of people are happy with this. It gives like a crazy buff. It looks kind of like a money grab, but like I said, it's probably version specific. If they do bring it to our version, they're probably gonna come up with some other excuse, whatever. So, this is crazy. You know, it's ridiculous, whatever, right? But basically this is my argument regarding Law Saga and balance. Now, it, this is opinion. Let's make that clear. Number one, this is opinion. Don't go running to your friends like, this guy's Sumerian, meta trash, whatever. I don't care. This is my opinion. This is what I personally believe as a player that's been playing the game since the very beginning, right? I I believe that Lost Saga is an equal opportunity game. I don't believe Lost Saga is pay to play. I believe pay to win. I believe that Lost Saga is play to win. What I mean by that is if you play the game a long time, often, you can get all of these items that I have. I've experienced it. I've personally experienced having friends that paid not a dollar, literally not anything, paid nothing and have gotten just as much items as me or close. It's really just it just really comes down to it really comes down to just how much you play. Really like I paid for my vampire package. I paid for it in cash, and a lot of people got it for free from bingo. You know what I mean? It's just really it's mostly I guess pay to get stuff faster. That's really what it is. But if you play, I'm pretty sure you can get the stuff. A lot of people played and got lucky, got Arcanist rolls, got Arcanist capes, got Galaxy. There's events that help you get this stuff. So it's just really I believe that Lost Saga is a play to win game, not a pay to win game. If you play it enough, if you participate in events, if you take advantage of everything, you can get a lot of stuff without paying a dime. That is true. Um, uh, Regarding balance though, now I do believe that there are specific characters that are stronger than other characters. I think that game is designed that way in my opinion, because Lost Saga was never meant to be a single character game. What people misunderstand about Lost Saga is it has almost 200 characters. The game is designed for you to come up with super unique swap combos, but using a bunch of different characters. That's how the game was designed to be played. If you were playing the game by using one character, you're playing the game wrong. That's not how the game is designed to be played. It's designed to be played with multiple characters. So if you're running around with a fire mage and you're getting spanked by a vampire and you're like, wow, why is vampire stronger than fire mage? Bruh, like come on, like just stop. You know what I mean? That's no one's fault. That's your choice to play the game that way. It's not the way the game is designed to be played. So as far as balance goes, no, vampire is designed to be stronger than fire mage, but that doesn't mean that you can't pull out a character that can counter vampire. Robin Evo counters vampire, right? Let's just do it in a way that people can understand. Let's say you have vampire, right? Vampire counters fire mage, but Robin Evo counters vampire. If you're a good Robin Evo, like I said, skill is still a matter in this. So if you suck at vampire, you can probably still lose to a fire mage. That's the thing that makes Lost Saga cool, is that skill is still a thing. If you're a sucky vampire and you're facing a good fire mage, the fire mage can beat you because you suck at vampire. Now, if you're a good vampire and if you're a shitty vampire and someone's a good Robin Evo, that could force you to swap from vampire and use another character. That's how the game is played. It's a counter system. That's why there's so many different characters. That's how it's designed to be played. Um, I do believe Lost Saga is balanced in terms of that counter system, the different characters. Every character in Lost Saga can beat another character. Your skill is still very dependent on that. Your skill with the character is still dependent, but I believe that every character in Lost Saga can beat every character. There's no character that can 100% spank a character 100% of the time. It's bullshit. If you suck with the character, you suck. It doesn't matter how overpowered it is. That's it. I think the unbalanced argument in Lost Saga comes from availability. What I mean by that is people 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 uh, judge unbalanced by like gears. For example, if I have Camille ears, a gear that can make me escape from every combo, and they don't, they regard that as unbalanced. That doesn't mean the game is unbalanced. That's an availability issue. You don't have the gear, I do. That doesn't mean that the game is unbalanced because the gear itself exists. It exists. You know what I mean? It's in the game. That means that there's also a chance for you to have it. You just don't. That doesn't mean the entire game is unbalanced. That just means you simply just don't have the gear. That's an availability issue. You know what I mean? That's when company and money comes into play, and there's events and stuff. You get a timed community ears, you extend it. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean the game is unbalanced. It doesn't. It just means that you just don't have a gear that can make you escape all combos. You know what I mean? That's really it. Um, there is other gears, non-cash gears like Ultimate Trinket and all the rest of that other stuff that makes you escape combos that you can use if you don't have any money, or if you didn't participate in an event that could got you commutators. You know what I mean? Like it's just an availability thing. That's the argument. Stats are in the game to create a level of unbalance. That is why stats are in the game. Stats are in every game to create a level of unbalance. That is the point. You know, I won't argue that if you have stats, you're automatically stronger than everybody else. That is not true. Don't believe that. If a person has stats and they suck, they will lose. I used to beat a lot of static players. I'm not gonna say any names, but I used to beat a lot of static players before I was as static as I was, and it was because they just weren't good. They lacked the basics. They couldn't block or counter or deflect effectively. They didn't know how to play mind games. They just had really high stats in Epic Awaken. You know what I mean? It's all the skill thing. Skill still plays a part. It's not like I can just run into a match with 160 F Saber weapon skill and just win. That's not true. You know what I mean? It still comes down to the fact that it doesn't make sense to have 160 F Saber weapon skill if you don't hit anybody with it. It's that simple. People like to blame stats on their losses. I'm not saying stats is not a factor. Stats definitely help. It's definitely a factor, but it's not 100% of the reason why people lose. A lot of people that I beat, it's not because I outstat them, it's because they simply just lack the basics. A lot of people I run into just don't know how to play, effectively. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm sorry if like I offend anybody that's watching this video. It's not my intention to offend you, but it's the truth. It's just like some people just they just lack the basics. That's really, that's really the case. So yeah, unbalanced. There's a lot of factors in unbalancing, unbalanced in Lost Saga or balance or whatever. There's several factors, little factors that's often ignored in Lost Saga that can really make a difference in between whether or not you win. One of those factors is, walking, right? Walking, this is common knowledge. A lot of people don't know this. Common knowledge. Walking makes your skills charge 50% faster than running. That is why often you see high ranks in the beginning of the matches. They're usually like this, just really walking around. It's because it makes your skills charge faster, 50% faster. If you're running, your skills charge 50% slower, right? That's pretty big information. Winning or losing can be based off of that. If one person is constantly running around in a match, their skills won't charge as fast. And then the smarter player would be walking, or say for example, I ground a person. Let's say I grounded, in perspective. In the time that he's on the ground, I could use that time to walk and let my skills charge. That's a factor. Now, adding high cooldowns to that, let's say 160 F Saber weapon skill, it's gonna come back pretty often. A lot of people think that my skills just come back because they're fast. That's not true. It comes back because I play in a very smart way. I walk. I don't run. I run when it's necessary. I'm not saying you should never run now. Don't take that as advice. Like I'm saying you should never run. You should run, but you should know when to run. It's situational. A lot of stuff can happen in that battle room, that can cause a lot of different stuff to happen. Sometimes you need to run. Sometimes you need to walk. It really just depends on how you play. You know. Uh, that can just completely obliterate an unbalanced argument, because the guy that's claiming unbalanced, because of stats and stuff, is probably running around the whole match and his skills are never charged. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It just, like I said, it just really comes down to how you play. I personally don't make any excuses, for anyone, especially players from my generation, simply because we're from the same generation and I got to where I'm at. What is your excuse? You know what I mean? That's really what I like to use. Like I said, don't take offense to this. Don't go crazy in the comments. Don't send me nasty PMs in games. This is just my opinion. This is how I personally feel. You should not take it hard, or get mad or whatever. That's just how I feel. I feel like, that whatever. That's how I feel. So, unbalanced, right? Availability, that's really an argument. A thing exists in the game, um to create that unbalance. Money can be a factor, but events help too. There's events, where you can get a legendary gear or whatever. You should take advantage of it. Take advantage. If you're not a cashier, take advantage of all the events. Get as much free stuff as possible. You know what I mean? If you don't spend any money, that's really the case. But it just really doesn't make sense to complain, and cry unbalanced if, one, you're not playing smartly, two, you're not taking advantage of the free stuff that they're giving you. That's then you don't really have a right to complain, because you're not doing anything. You're just being lazy. Whatever. Um, that's my argument. If people were so concerned, I didn't want to. I was gonna make a video like this, but it's like I usually go on the forums and I say things like this, and people catch a lot of feelings. They get really mad because you know if people don't like super static players that win a lot. It's a common thing on MMOs. You hate that guy that's always winning. You hate that guy that's always, you hate that guy that's high static. I get it. I understand. Whatever. But that's just my opinion. I'm not. You know whatever. That's really what it is. But yeah, that's my argument. It just comes down to how you play, and availability. Like, money is a factor in Lost Saga. GP, you have a lot of GP, you don't have a lot of GP. That's a factor in your upgrades. Upgrades can be another cause for unbalance. If you're constantly spending your GP on foolishness, like style caps, or whatever, you're not going to have any GP to upgrade your stats. Therefore, you're going to be understated. There's a lot of factors that 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 go into an unbalanced, or just a balanced argument in general in Lost Saga. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, even with this stuff, even with this crap, what I mean? If a person sucks with Destroyer, it doesn't matter if you have slow or not. You don't hit anybody. You know what I mean? That's it. You know what I'm saying? That's really it. You know what I mean? But guys, like I said, I'm sorry for the video. It was supposed to be a joke. It wasn't supposed to be anything taken seriously. Apparently, a lot of people got mad, because they thought I was gonna make like a real video, and argue unbalanced. But like I said, I just do that to avoid the flame wars, because people get mad when I say stuff like this. People get mad when I say, you can do what I'm doing. I'm human, just like you, which is true. I'm human, just like you. You can do whatever I'm doing. You could be as static as I am. You can be as you can win as much as I do. It just all comes down to how much you care. You know what I mean? If you really, really care about winning, bro, go that extra mile. You know, work hard, work on your technique, work on your blocking, work on your countering, work on your mind games, work on everything, push yourself to that limit. If you really care that much about winning, it's easy. Now, I don't want to hear, oh, but I have a job and then don't cry unbalanced. If you have a job, if you don't have time to play the game a decent amount of time, don't go in the comments talking about you have a job, you can't play 24/7 because you're not a no life, whatever. Okay, that's fine, but don't cry unbalanced when you lose. It's that simple. I'm not saying that LoL Soccer should be more important than your job either. Don't try to flip it and make me look like I'm some guy that's just at his house all day playing LoL Saga. That's not the case, But if you care that much, if you really want to win, go that extra mile, man. Stack those stats, save your GP. Play smartly, take advantage of events. Do that. Play the game. That's the point. Just play the game. That's really it. Guys, like always, thanks for watching.